let's start this reading weekend. This book was just making me feel all types of anxious. Classic female protagonist. I still can't believe I read that entire book in a day. Like, what is wrong with me? Hi everyone, it's me. Welcome to today's video. We are home alone this weekend, and you know what that means. We are just going to read a lot of books, and I just thought it'd be fun to spend the next 48 hours together reading, doing cozy book things. I currently have exactly 50 books on my physical TBR, which if you have been following me on this journey for a little while, near the beginning of the year, I want to say in March when I counted my physical TBR, we had I think I want to say 101 books on the TBR. So the fact that we have successfully read down the TBR from 101 now to 50, and we are on the brink of breaking into the 40s, I think is absolutely wonderful. My goal this year was to read my physical TBR down to 35, which we may or may not hit by the end of the year. We shall have to see. But yeah, let's just take the next 2 days to read together, see how many books we can read, but also with no stress. I've decided for this particular readathon, I don't want to set a timer. I just want to read with you guys for 2 days, and that's it. The first book that we are going to read is actually one that I've been reading for the past 2 days already. So we're going to be finishing this one up, but I have been reading Madwoman by Chelsea Bieker. This was on my October TBR, and I've been having quite an interesting time with this one, I would say. This is a literary fiction, but it also has elements of a psychological mystery thriller maybe. We follow Clove, and Clove has come from a very, very traumatic past with a father who was very abusive to her mother. She's always grown up in this very volatile environment, and because of all these things that happened from when she was a child, in her adult years now, she's really trying to erase the past, just forget that that ever happened to her, carve a new identity for herself. So she just really, really aims to be regular. So she lives in a very, very regular house. She married the most regular husband that she could find. She has 2 very regular kids that she's trying to raise to be just very, very normal. And she also likes to just have control over everything. So the diet she eats and the diet that she feeds her kids is very whole foods, healthy, she doesn't stuff herself with junk food. And she's quite proud of this new life that she's made for herself, but one day she receives a letter from a prison. And with that letter, all of these old secrets from her past life start to not come out, but kind of threaten to come out. And so she just kind of feels that her life is starting to unravel before her. And we follow this story. Now, from that synopsis, I feel it sounds like it's going to be some sort of a fast-paced, exciting thriller. This book is definitely not that. It 100% takes the more literary fiction route, but we just have a few of those mystery thriller elements. So it is quite a slow moving story, and I didn't really know what to expect going into it. So it honestly took me a little while to settle into it. I think the writing style in this book is actually really, really interesting. The entire book is written in second person POV, which to begin with, that is, I find very rare to find in a book. But in this book, the second POV isn't even directed to you as the reader. It's directed to her mother. So the whole book kind of reads as this dialogue, or maybe this letter of her just talking to her mother or talking at her mother. So that's been really cool to read, but I will say it took me so long to settle into this book. I was very unsure of it for a long time. Number one, because it is very slow moving, and I was expecting it to be a little more thrillery based on the synopsis. And then second of all, the amount of anxiety that our protagonist struggles with was honestly a little bit hard for me to read, because I am a person who is very anxious to begin with, and being in Clove's mind was it was a little bit too much for me. I tend to love reading about characters with anxiety because I can honestly relate to them, but I feel the way it was written in this book is definitely a lot more just brutally upfront, which is good, but it took me, you have to be in the mood for it to be able to enjoy it. So yeah, this book was just making me feel all types of anxious at the beginning, but I feel I'm settling into it now. I am starting to appreciate the story, and I would say I'm quite invested in it now. The plot definitely is starting to pick up now, and there are some things happening that they're kind of freaking me out in a different way, more in a thriller way. So I don't know, this is one of those books that I feel you will just not know how you feel about it until you read to the end. And so that is what we are going to do. I think I have about 150 pages remaining left of this book. So let's finish this one up. I also, in a bit, am going to head out. I am visiting Hopeless Romantic Books, my favorite bookstore in Toronto. They just moved to a larger location and today is their grand opening. I actually went to a little preview event that was hosted by them a few days ago, but I'm going again today because I actually have an order to pick up for a book. So I guess my physical TBR is going to go from 50 back up to 51, but that's okay. I absolutely love their new store. It's so cute. I will take you guys along with me and we can go see it together, but I'm going to take Madwoman with me to read on the way there. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Let's start this reading weekend. We're back home. I did finish Madwoman on my way back home on the streetcar from Hopeless Romantic, and I will have to say it was a little bit of an unhinged decision on my part to finish this book in public. The ending definitely picked up. In terms of the thriller elements of this book, though, I will say a lot of them were predictable. Like, it was still a roller coaster to read, but I don't think anything actually truly surprised me while I was reading it, but it was just still very wild. A wild experience reading the end of this one in public, especially because the majority of this book really felt like a literary fiction, slow moving, very character driven, and then we just like change into a thriller at the end. I honestly don't really know what to think about this book. I'm a little conflicted at it. I think there were so many parts of it that I truly enjoyed, but then there were so many parts that I was either unsure of or I just felt very frustrated and annoyed reading it, because our protagonist is clearly, like, she's struggling with a lot of things. Like, she's experienced so much trauma and abuse and violence at such a young age, and a lot of that is affecting her decisions and what she's doing as an adult. So even though you're frustrated at her character, you can't judge her or like you can't fault her for making these bad decisions, because all of her decisions are coming from this, you know, this dark place from within her. And while the overall story I think was very meaningful, the main themes of womanhood, motherhood, how the experience of being a woman has changed so much within the past, let's say like 2 decades, I think there were a lot of meaningful messages that were embedded in this book, but I can't say that I enjoyed reading it. Like, it was a very annoying read, but a very meaningful read. So I'm just a little bit torn. I think I'm gonna rate this a 3.5 overall. I think it was a good read and I would maybe recommend it, but it also was so annoying. Like, reading this kind of put me in a bad mood, but that's also kind of the point of the book. Like, you're not supposed to feel happy rainbow sunshine butterflies reading a book like this. This book definitely has one of those main characters where you can't, like, you don't really love her, let's say. Like, she's not going to be your favorite character ever, I don't think, but it's very important to read about these types of characters to really put yourself in someone else's shoes. But that's Madwoman complete. I did pick up 2 books at Hopeless Romantic. One because I had already pre-ordered that one, so I was just going in to pick it up, and the other because I've been wanting to pick it up for a while, and also I just love supporting them. So whenever I visit their store, I try to always buy something. I didn't film too much in the store though. It was actually very busy today, which is wonderful. I'm so happy that their opening day has been so like successful and busy so far, but because there were a lot of people around, it was very crowded. I didn't want to like get in the way and just like be filming everyone, and you know, I didn't want to be a nuisance in that way. But the 2 books I picked up, the first one, the one that I actually ordered a couple weeks ago, is The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I've been wanting to read this one for a long time. I have only heard really wonderful things about this book. I don't think I've actually seen anyone with a negative review. Freya obviously loved this book as well, so she's been kind of begging me to read this one, so I picked it up. It's also so gorgeous. It's like purple with all of this metallic shiny detail. so stunning. We have some sort of an academy setting in this one. I think everyone who goes to the academy is sorted into these different houses or house type things, where each house is represented by an animal. Like we have the ravens, we have foxes, we have other animals, and I think your affinity or like your animal house also kind of affects what magic you have as well, or like the way you use magic. I'm really excited to read this though. This one is a high fantasy. And then I also picked up Heavenly Bodies by Imani Iriu. I've been really curious about this one. This one is a romantasy, and we have a magic system that is based on astrology or like the stars, celestial stuff. And we have a lot of Greek mythology intertwined in this one as well. But yeah, that's Heavenly Bodies. But in terms of the book I want to pick up next, I do want to pick up something else from my October TBR. I'm gonna go grab it. Okay. Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. I feel like this is going to be a wonderful book for October. I've never actually read a T. Kingfisher book before. I've heard so many wonderful things about her books. I've had so many recommendations to get into her books, to start her books. So I'm really excited to try her out as an author for the first time. But this one is some sort of a Snow White retelling. And I absolutely love a fairy tale retelling. Our protagonist, Anya, is a healer, but she also regularly drinks poison to find cures that other people have not found cures for. She gets summoned by the king. His daughter, Snow, is dying, and he hopes that her unorthodox methods can save her. So I guess she, you know, gets involved with the royal family, probably moves into the castle. I have been seeking poison books. I think they are just so wonderful and vibey, especially for spooky season. So I'm excited to get into this one. This is gonna be our next book. Let's get into it. Okay, I've read the first 100 pages. This writing style is so unique. I feel like it's unlike anything I've ever really read before. It's easy to read. It's descriptive, but not overly descriptive, but it's also just really funny. And I'm finding it so interesting because we're in this kind of a serious world. We are dealing with kind of serious subject matter. You know, we have like a princess who is likely being poisoned. We've already had some character deaths mentioned within the first 100 pages of the book. So there are stakes, but it's all wrapped up in this writing that is just funny. I don't think we've had a single conversation in this book that hasn't had at least like 3 jokes thrown in there. It's just so bantery and funny and silly, but then we also get the vibe of this like dark fairy tale with poisons and stuff. I think the closest writing style I have read to this is probably Rachel Gillig in The Night and the Moth, because I know that book also surprised me with kind of how funny it was. It's kind of similar to that. So it's quite different than the usual type of fantasy that I read, but I like it so far. It's fun. I'm also really loving all of the poison lore we're getting. I don't know what it is about poison. I don't know why I'm so intrigued at it. Like if I were to face poison in real life, like it's definitely not anything pleasant or anything I want to experience or be close to. But for some reason in stories, I just love the element of poison. And we are learning about so many different types of poison in this book, and I am absolutely loving that. So we shall continue reading, but first impressions of T. Kingfisher are positive. Made some dinner. Oh my god, it's so hot. I'm on page 250-ish of Hemlock and Silver. I am really enjoying this so far. It's kind of like the best way to do a fairy tale retelling. Like if you were to do a fairy tale retelling, this is the way to do it because it has so many elements of Snow White. Like we have Snow, the princess, we have like poisons, we have apples, we have mirrors, but they're all utilized in such a different way. Like the story is so different than the typical Snow White story, like fairy tale that we all know. So it feels like Snow White because we have so many of those elements in here, but the story is new. It's refreshing. We're obviously not even in like Snow White's POV. We are in someone else's POV, and it's just a lot of fun to read. There's like a grumpy cat in here that I'm loving. The magic is actually quite interesting. Like I feel like I'm studying the magic along with our protagonist, and the story is very intriguing because there's kind of this like mystery element to it. It honestly kind of feels like if Rachel Gillig wrote Belladonna, and I'm actually really loving this vibe. The one thing I'm not really loving about this book at the moment is the romance subplot, which is like, it's fine, it's just kind of there, but it's just one of those romance plots where it's giving me nothing and just does not have to be there. I don't think personally, like I don't love it, I don't hate it, it just kind of seems like it was thrown in and I don't know, feels a little random and half-baked to me. But I'm gonna eat dinner, I'm gonna keep reading, and we'll see how we feel by the end of it. Just finished this one. Can you see both my cats? There's one cat over here on my left and there's one cat just here, my little babies. Anyways, yes, I did just finish Hemlock and Silver. I unfortunately really lost interest in this second half of this book. I was really enjoying the premise, I was enjoying the direction we were going in, and I was enjoying the writing as well for the entire first half of this book, but there was something about the second half that made me lose interest. I think once we got into this sort of adventure, otherworldly vibe in this book, it just sort of threw me. Going into this book, judging by the cover, the title, the synopsis, I expected this to be more of a like moody poison book, and we got that for the first half, but then the story just like veered off into this entire different thing, and I just was not here for the other thing. Like maybe if I was more in the mood for an adventure quest and picked this book up then, I would have enjoyed it more, but I just was not expecting that in a book like this. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It definitely did make me lose interest, and I don't know if that's like T. Kingfisher overall because this is my first T. Kingfisher book, but I just expected more like, I don't know, spooky gothic vibes. I wanted more poison. Like we started so strong with all the poison and then we just kind of forgot about the poison in the second half. I feel like our focus went somewhere completely different, but I think I'm gonna give this a 3.5. I don't think it's a bad book by any means. I just think I was really not in the mood for the second half of this book. But if you guys know more about T. Kingfisher and her past reads, her backlist, let me know what her other books are kind of like. Are they kind of similar to this, or do they give more spooky gothic? Because I feel like all of her books seem and look like kind of spooky gothic, and like I know she has this sense of humor, but I would just like, you can have a spooky gothic with a sense of humor, but this was more adventure quest and now I'm very confused. I'm very confused. I also just like, I feel nothing for the romance in this book. I don't know if it's because I never felt attached to any of the characters as individuals. I think the story was trying to do too much. Like we were trying to have so many different vibes. We can have poison and humor, or we can have humor and quest, or we can have poison and quest, with the mystery aspect of it too. Like there was just too much we were trying to do. There were not enough words or pages or moments, I don't know, for me to connect to the characters. And because I wasn't connected to the characters, I was not connected to the romance either. So I'm a little bummed out. And I feel like it sounds like I'm raging about this book. It's definitely not a bad book. I'm just going off my current mood right now, just being very tired after reading this one, purely I think just because I wasn't in the mood. Shall we pick our next read? The next book I want to read is actually on my Kindle. Also, I got a new Kindle case. How cute. The book we are going to read on my Kindle, though, I don't think matches the vibe of my new cute Kindle case, but that's okay. We are going to read Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. This technically isn't on my physical TBR, but this book is our Fable Book Club pick month. What did I just say? This book is our Fable Book Club book pick for the month of October. We are all reading this together. A lot of you guys have already been reading it. I've been seeing all the little messages and stuff pop up on Fable, but I haven't been able to look at them yet because obviously I haven't read the book yet. So I don't want to spoil myself, but I have been just like waiting for the moment where I can open up those chats and see what you guys have been saying. So we're gonna read this one. Is it a good idea for me to pick up a thriller when I'm home alone and it's getting dark and like the night is falling upon us? Unsure. Unsure if it's a good decision. I will say that time we did a 24-hour readathon and I picked up, I think it was like a Lucy Foley thriller once like the evening and night started falling. I was kind of like, should I read this? Is this a good idea? And I realized that books tend to not scare me too much in terms of a physical actual reaction of like, I feel scared right now. I feel like books don't really do that for me as much as movies do. And especially with Holly Jackson books, I feel like they're just kind of like fun thrilling, but this one is her first adult thriller, so it may be stepping it up a notch and we may need to just pause this if it gets too scary and resume in the morning. But we are going to attempt to read this as our third book for this little, I don't want to call this a readathon because we're just kind of like chilling and hanging out. We're just being cozy and reading together. But I am going to hop in the shower. I'm going to do a little body shower and then I am going to start Not Quite Dead Yet. I've also heard from some of you that this book is like more emotional than you would have expected. And I was like, what? Like a few of you have told me that this book has made you cry. And I'm like, a Holly Jackson thriller has made you cry? That obviously makes me all kinds of intrigued. We'll see about that. I completely forgot to give you a plot synopsis for this one, but we follow Jet. On Halloween night, she gets violently attacked and she wakes up in the hospital not knowing what happened to her. She doesn't know who attacked her, but the doctor tells her she can either go under this really dangerous surgery, or if she doesn't do the surgery, she has 7 days to live. So Jet decides, you know what, I'm not gonna go through the surgery. I'm just gonna spend the last 7 days of my life trying to figure out who did this to me. So she's basically trying to solve her own murder. Definitely sounds like a really interesting premise. I love that we have that 7-day time constraint. I feel like this book is going to be just very tightly packed because we have that time constraint. But yeah, shower time and then reading time. Wow, the mood lighting is so harsh coming from this side right now. But I'm just under 100 pages in and this is so much fun so far to read. So much fun. I love when Holly Jackson's protagonists go all detective and go fully into that mode of like taking notes and like investigating things, making a timeline of the night of events and going into all of those details so you as a reader can go along with it and try and solve who did it. Like it's just so much fun. I love that. And so I'm definitely going through it right now. I definitely have a suspect or two. I would say I have 2 suspects. I'm not going to say who it is because spoilers, but if you do want to check on Fable, I have been making some comments in our book club. But it's just so much fun, and as I expected, it's very fast paced because we have this 1 week timeline where we have to, you know, solve everything in this book. I also think this book has another added element that makes it more interesting because it's not only just Jet trying to solve this murder, she's trying to solve her own murder, but then at the same time she's, you know, she emotionally has to deal with the fact that this is her last week, and to me it seems like she's really minimizing her feelings, like she's just very distracted with solving this crime. So obviously like she doesn't have that much time to deal with how she's actually feeling about it. But there are just a few moments and like the way other people are reacting to seeing her and stuff, just feeling very awkward about the whole situation. Like there are some really good moments in there where everyone just kind of like takes a second to be like, oh, this is a weird situation, how do we deal with this mentally and emotionally. There are definitely some layers in here that you don't find, or at least I didn't find, in Holly Jackson's YA books. The writing feels simple enough that it does feel a little bit YA, but yeah, I think just the subject matter and what we're dealing with, the themes are a little bit more mature than a YA book. But I'm gonna continue reading it. I am not creeped out. reading this alone at night in the dark. So we're gonna keep going with this one. I'm just gonna read for a little bit more. I usually read, I don't know, anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour in bed before I fall asleep, but we'll see how much we end up reading tonight. I feel like with a book like this, I may stay up a little bit longer just because I feel so like invested in it. But yeah, let's continue reading. We'll see how much more I get to tonight. Protagonists are just so clueless about the romance that is right in front of them. Like, Jet, how are you missing every single clue from this man that he likes you, but at the same time you're like so detail oriented in terms of the crime stuff? Like, how can you notice all these little hints and details but not pick up at all on any of the little romance hints that are being tossed your way? Classic female protagonist, honestly. Good morning. Why is it still so dark outside right now? It is 7:47 a.m. I woke up, did a workout, had some breakfast. It's still very, very dark outside. No, the winter is coming. I did make it up to page 237 of Not Quite Dead Yet. So we are on November 6th, which I think means we have 2 days left to live. I'm actually so pleasantly surprised at this thriller. Like, I knew I was gonna have a good time either way with this one because Holly Jackson usually just like takes you on a fun ride. With Holly Jackson, I feel like you might not love the book, but even if you don't love the book, you'll still have fun reading it. But I think this is gradually becoming maybe my favorite read from her. Previously to this, it was 5 Survive. And I think this one just has a similar feeling because we have that time breakdown, but we add so much more depth because of our main character like going through her own death, and along with that comes so many interesting feelings. Like, for some reason when I read the synopsis, I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be like a fun rage-filled story with the protagonist, you know, finding her own murderer, and it's just gonna be like angry and angsty and whatever. For some reason I like didn't even think about the emotions that she would be going through, knowing that she only has this limited amount of time to live. So yes, she has her task, she has her goal set out for her, but she's also struggling with this whole thing. Like, do I want to die? Do I not want to die? Do I just accept it? Like, what do I do? And she's being tossed into these situations where sometimes she's like, yeah, you know what, I've accepted my own death, it's fine, and she makes all these kind of death jokes. And then there are other times where she's like, hold on, like, do I want to die? Like, is this going to be okay? And we're also watching her brain slowly deteriorate over the week. I also didn't even think that would be a thing either when reading the synopsis. I just thought like, oh yeah, she's just gonna live out the 7 days and then she's gonna die at the end. But I didn't think of like, yeah, every single day there's going to be something that she loses. And so there are just so many emotions tied in with that, and I didn't expect it at all. But all that to say, we have 2 days left to live, so let's continue reading this. I'm still sold on my suspect, or my 2 suspects. I think they work together. I'm still sold on my theory of who I think did it. Okay, I did guess that ending around 70% into the book, so I'm a little proud of myself for that one. This was a really fun read. This honestly might be my new favorite Holly Jackson. I just really like the added depth of like the whole dying thing and the emotions behind it. I think this is the first Holly Jackson book that has actually made me feel like any emotions other than just, you know, the excitement from a thriller. Like, this one really made me feel things. It didn't go like too deep into feelings, but for a thriller, I'm happy with like how far it actually did go. I think I'm gonna give this a 4-star. I really truly enjoyed it. I am very, very happy about this one. Let's pick up another book. We could go a couple different directions with this next pick. I could either read like 2 or 3 more books for this vlog, or we could read one very long one. And I think I'm gonna go with the one very long one because I am just so curious about it. I am too curious. I need to pick this up. I cannot get this out of my cart with only one hand. 1 second. Oh my god. Ugh. Alchemised by SenLinYu. This book, why is this book so heavy? I do know this book is quite long. I think it's about 1,000 pages, but everyone I know has either read this book or is reading this book or is talking about this book, and I just need to know. I just need to know. Alchemised is a dark fantasy. We have necromancy, I think, as the dark magic, and we have alchemy, I think, in this world as well. This book, I believe, starts post-war, so we're navigating this post-war environment, and our protagonist, Helena, has been captured. She was on like the good side, but the good side lost the war. She's a healer, and she has been given to the High Reeve to try and bring her memories back. I think there are some important memories. The High Reeve and like the evil side, they want these memories, so they're trying to retrieve them from her. My wrist is already hurting holding this book up. I think this is one of those books where I just need to like plop down on a table in front of me and just read like plopped on a table. We're gonna start this. Will I finish this book today? Will I be able to read this entire book in one day? Who knows? It depends how productive I'm feeling today. But hopefully we can at least read a good chunk of this. I am officially 100 pages in. And so for my initial thoughts, I know that the author SenLinYu really wants to distance themselves from Manacled and wants to distance Alchemised from Manacled in general. Alchemised has definitely been like completely rewritten, reworked since the days of Manacled. So I don't want to talk about Manacled too much, but I feel like it would be kind of weird for me to not mention Manacled because I did read Manacled a few years ago. And so reading Alchemised, I'm obviously going to have some callbacks to like where the source kind of where this book came from, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna quickly just talk about Manacled now, and then we're just gonna leave it and move on, leave Manacled in the past. I remember getting into Manacled was very difficult for me. I generally am not a fanfiction reader. I never really went through that fanfiction phase that I think a lot of readers did, but I did read Manacled a few years ago because I was just very curious. A lot of people were talking about it, and I remember it taking me quite a while to get into the story because it seemed so weird for me to be seeing these characters written in such a different style, written in such a darker feeling world. That's what I remember. And so far my experience with Alchemised is so much better because we have an actual dedicated world to the story that fits the story, that I think elevates the just atmosphere, the ambiance of it so much more and complements the story, because now we have this much darker world filled with necromancy. You know, we literally have corpses reanimated walking around, and it just feels so much more suited to the subject matter of the story that we are following. So that is a good thing. And also, that being said, I have been very curious to see what SenLinYu would do with the world building, because obviously when they wrote Manacled, they didn't have to do any world building because we had a world and lore and history and backstory just like pre-built for us already. And so I think that was honestly the part that I was the most intrigued about, was what type of world are we going to build in Alchemised? And I am so far really enjoying the world. I'm really appreciating how it's done, because I think with a lot of necromancy books that I've read in the past, necromancy has always just kind of been this very simple, straightforward, like, yeah, we're just bringing people back to life. We're bringing the dead back to life, and that's necromancy. There you go. And we don't really expand on like different types of it or like different methods and the effects of it and stuff. And we're getting quite a bit of detail about that in this book. So I'm really enjoying that. I think the fantasy world we've created is just, it feels very full and fleshed out, and I enjoy that. The story itself is moving quite slow. And I remember that was the case with Manacled as well. It's definitely like, it's 1,000 pages long. It's a slow moving story, but along the way you just see like so many horrors happening to these people. SenLinYu definitely does not shy away from all the brutal things that happen in war. Like, they are just very, very blunt about it. That being said, I am enjoying this read. SenLinYu's writing is also just, it just really flows easily. It's very easy to read. Also, just a side note, the paper quality is something else in this book. I don't think I've ever read a book with this type of paper in it. It feels kind of almost like a fabric. It just feels, it's not like overly thick, but it just feels more like bendable and sturdy. And also the print of the actual font is very crisp. There's something very, very like nice and crisp about it. It's very easy on the eyes, but I don't want to go on too big of a tangent on like print quality and fonts and stuff. But the print quality in this is wonderful, which is great, because if you are going to experience a book for this many pages, like, it's nice to have paper and words that are easy on your eyeballs. Anyways, I'm gonna continue moving my way through this book. Forgot about the eye part. Ugh. I feel like in general I'm like okay with gore when I read it in books. I'm much more comfortable about it in books versus movies, but once you get to eyeballs, ugh. Just got to part 2. We are nearing the 300-page mark, but just to kind of wrap up part 1, I feel like the overall progression of the story is so strong. Like, the direction it goes in, it's, as I mentioned, just so bluntly horrifying being in this post-war setting. And a lot of this first part was just really like showing the brutalities of it, building the world, giving you some history. But I will just say, I feel like it didn't have to be this long. Like, it didn't have to be almost 300 pages long. We probably could have gotten away with like 150 pages for this part 1 and just condensed it a little bit. I also think that for me, it took a lot of time for me to start caring about the characters because it feels like we're missing some lore. I think, and I know I promised I wasn't going to bring up Manacled again, but here I am bringing up Manacled again. When I read Manacled, you already know the connections of the characters and who they are to each other and what they've been through, but we don't have that as much here because as I'm reading this, I'm really trying to detach it from anything related to Manacled, and I'm trying to just like settle into this book as if I'm reading the story for the first time with these new characters that I have never met. You know, I'm trying to read this in the lens of like, you know, this is not a repurposed story that I've already read. I'm trying to read it with fresh eyes, and I think without a lot of the lore that you get with something like a fan fiction, we're just missing some backstory. Like, the world building is wonderful so far. The writing, beautiful. There is so much good in this book, but I just feel a little bit of a lack of connection. I think because we're not getting backstory, and I think we are going to start to get more backstory now at page 300, but I do think it should have happened sooner. I'm excited to dive into part 2. There have already been a couple parts that have made me feel just so like, ooh, but let's just keep going. I have been reading this one book all morning, all afternoon, all evening, and now not all night, but we're into the night now and we have 100 pages to go. We're actually gonna finish it today, I think. I'm so tired. I don't know why I did this. I definitely did not have to dedicate every single minute of today reading this book, but I just wanted to finish this book with you guys. I really dislike leaving reading vlogs unfinished in terms of books with these kind of like timed themed reading vlogs like the 24-hour readathon or like this one. I just would be so frustrated if I didn't finish this book with you guys. Like, we have to finish what we started. And there have definitely been times in the past where I've left a book like half read because of one of these like timed themed vlogs. And I know you guys get frustrated at it and I get frustrated at it. So I'm like, I need to finish what I started today. And so I literally dedicated every single minute of today reading this book. And I'm so tired. I'm feeling just drained. But I have 100 pages left. So let's finish it. We'll wrap up our final thoughts when I'm done. Okay, what do I think? What do I think? First of all, I'm just gonna rip off the band-aid. This is not a 5-star book for me, but it is a 4-star book for me. I think there are so many wonderful parts of this book. Like, I don't want to say wonderful because that implies it's like a lovely read. It's not a lovely read. It's a very tragic read, but there are parts that are so well done. Okay, hello. I am interrupting myself because I did go on a little bit of a ramble about Alchemised last night, and just looking back at that video clip, I'm like, I was so tired and out of it. My thoughts were not straight at all. So we're gonna redo right now. Also, it's the next morning. Hello. I'm also going to just set this book down here because it is so heavy to hold. I feel like the more I think about this book, the better it gets in my head. My initial impression right after reading the last page was like, oh wow, like that was a great way to tie up a book like this, but it didn't give me those like, ooh, like this will stick me forever impactful feelings. But the more I actually intentionally think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, you know what, maybe this will actually stick in my brain for a long time. I'm gonna give this a 4.25. First and foremost, this was a beautifully written story about two people who are forced to do these horrendous things during a war, and seeing the impacts of that and how they deal with it, and how they also find solace in each other because of this isolation they're feeling because of what they've been told to do. And then on top of that, to add to that feeling of isolation, we also see how these characters' actions are perceived by everyone else. So yeah, just like the more I think about it, the more these little moments, like these bits and pieces, they just continue to jump out at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, like that was a good moment. So it's kind of a weird feeling, like when you finish a book and you're like, I didn't really feel very strongly, but then after the fact, it triggers just like a lot of reflection. I do think that this book is exhausting to read. It is tiring to read, and it could also, you know, the fact that I read this book in one day definitely contributed to that feeling. But the book is long, you know, it is such a long-winded story that like I just felt so tired and exhausting reading it, and I'm kind of unsure. I'm undecided as to if that is a good thing or a bad thing about this book, because on one hand, you could say it's a bad thing because it's like, yeah, I felt so exhausted and tired and honestly a little bit bored at parts while reading this book. And so that indicates there were parts of this book that you did not enjoy. But then on the other hand, when you think about the story as a whole, again, it's like maybe you felt that exhaustion because the characters you were following were feeling that exhaustion. So there's good and bad to this, and I'm just like on the fence. I'm undecided on whether or not I think the exhaustion from this book is a good thing or a bad thing. And there were so many moments where I was like, oh, this is so repetitive. This is like, it's so redundant. We've been through this already. There's no point to this chapter. But then when you think about it, again, it's like that repetitive feeling is probably very purposeful. You're supposed to feel that way, like, oh my God, like this is happening again, or like, why is this so drawn out? It's because that's what war feels like. I really actually loved the world building in this book. I think that's a controversial take in terms of what I've seen on the internet. I've tried to stay away from all Alchemised stuff on the internet just because I've wanted to read it and form my own opinions, but from the little I did see, I was just seeing TikToks of people being confused at the world building at the beginning, and like I didn't really feel confused at it. I thought the world was cool. I really loved learning about the necromancy and the alchemy and how everything worked, so that was good. My one thing I'm stuck on still is just like, I didn't feel so strongly for these characters, and that's why when things were happening to them as I was reading them, I didn't feel so strongly in my emotions, like as strong as other people have felt. Like I didn't cry, and I'm still trying to like figure out in my head why that happened. I think it is likely the structure of the story and how things were told. I would love to see SenLinYu adjust the structure of the story, play around with it. Like I understand what they did with the 3 parts. It makes sense, but I think we just needed a little bit more backstory to the characters to understand more of their decisions and why they were so dedicated and loyal to what they were doing. Like, we definitely got a little bit of that, but I think the way we got those reveals and the timing that we got those reveals, maybe if they were moved around a little bit, it would have impacted me more. I'm missing a chunk of backstory, especially for Helena's character, I think. I think I actually understand Cain as a character more than I understand Helena, which is quite interesting because Cain is probably like the most opposite to me in terms of characters I read, but just in terms of the info we got on the characters, I think I understand Cain more than Helena, or like I understand his actions and why he did those things. I mean, yeah, this was a wonderful read. That last sentence definitely got me feeling things, but that's Alchemised. I still can't believe I read that entire book in a day. Like, what is wrong with me? I just feel like I needed to finish it with you guys. That was really ambitious of me, but we did it. That being said, I am going to leave you guys here for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave me a like and a comment. If you don't know what to comment down below, just let me know what you are currently reading. If you like me, subscribe, do that bell thing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!